Hello and welcome to the video. So I'm starting today's video off with a voiceover. I don't normally typically do this with a comparison video, but as you can see, it's absolutely lashing down with rain here at Porsche GB when I went to go collect the car. So I thought a voiceover would be better since the audio absolutely sucked during this whole filming clip. I want to say a big shout out and thank you to Porsche GB for lending me my very first press car on the channel, kicking off 2023 with a great start. This Porsche behind me is finished in carmine red and looks a little bit like the 2.5 litre GTS video that I recently filmed on my channel. Lo and behold, this is actually a 4 litre GTS with a manual gearbox belonging to Porsche's press team. And as you can see by the title, we're comparing it against my GT4 today. Starting right off the bat, how can you tell that this is a 4 litre GTS versus all the other Caymans that are available within the Porsche range? Well, unless you have the decal on the side of a Cayman, it's actually very hard to tell that this is the 4 litre model. The only way you can tell that this GTS is the 4 litre model is because you've got the twin exhaust pipes at the rear, which is the same exhaust pipes you get on the GT4. Other than that, without the decal and without looking at the back, you'd mistake this for a standard 2.5 litre GTS. Some people like that because it's a wolf in sheepskin, but other people who have spent the money on a 4 litre GTS want other people to know that they've spent the money on the naturally aspirated model. It just entirely depends on what kind of owner you are. So this GTS model is the top of the range Cayman that you can buy before you jump into the GT track cars like the GT4 and GT4 RS. So that means the GTS doesn't have the aggressive wing, the aggressive bumper at the front, and it doesn't also have all the aggressive stiff suspension, etc., that comes on the GT4. That means that a GTS is actually easier to live with day to day, easier to daily, and a little bit more understated versus the GT4 that I drive around in. Right, you actually joined me a day after that introduction clip was filmed for you a couple seconds ago. I've actually been living with this Cayman GTS for 2 days now. I've got to go and drop it back off to Porsche GB to go collect my GT4. Over the past day, or yesterday, I filmed the podium coffee run, which is already live on the channel. And then this morning, I actually went to NVMN Motorsport and did like another vlog in this car. So there should be 2 vlogs coming or already live on the channel of this car. You're enjoying the car, just living with it. This obviously is the video to compare the two together. Now, because I've been living with this car for almost 48 hours, I think I've got a really good idea, an impression, an understanding of the car to really kind of convey my thoughts and feelings. Normally when you kind of pick up a press car or just have a car for about 15 minutes, all the initial impressions, the excitement, they all kind of overwhelm each other and you're just like, what's going on? But because I've had time to live with it, some things I'm thinking about it, some things I'm annoyed, some things I'm really happy about. Hopefully I can properly give you an idea and an understanding of what I've thought about this car. is this car exactly the same as the GT4? Well, dear me, that's a big puddle. Same engine, I'm assuming same gearbox. I specifically chose a manual to give the most fair comparison between the two. It's definitely got the same long gearing. It's definitely just as fun. We've got the same torque figure. I think it's around about 420 Newton meters. Slightly less bhp, about 20 bhp less than the GT4. Do you notice that? You really don't. And there's around about 200 less revs to play with on the rev counter. Again, do you really notice that? No, not really. It kind of still feels like you're having to rev the nuts out of it, and that naturally aspirated feeling, that enjoyment is still there. So, right off the bat, the car feels pretty much like the GT4. Over the last 2 days, everything about this car is like minute differences. And I think that's kind of a whole, maybe basically summary of this car. Everything that I'm noticing has been like a minute difference, to the point where I'm starting to think, am I just picturing it? Am I just imagining it because I know it's a different car? Or is it actually a difference? The gear lever, it's definitely longer, it's taller than my GT4. I'm pretty sure it is, it feels longer. It's slightly quieter, but like minute. Is it quieter? I'm really not too sure. I can hear the engine, that hum behind me. Is it quieter? Does it have a little bit more sound deadening? I think it does, but it's minute. The steering, it feels just as direct. It doesn't feel light. The suspension doesn't feel worse. I think it's slightly softer. These are the manual seats, not the 18-way electric adjustable seats. I have got it pumped all the way down as low as I can. I've tried to set the recliningness the same as how I drive in my GT4, but I'm pretty sure I'm still sitting higher than in my GT4. Am I imagining it? I'm really not sure. It definitely feels like I'm sitting higher than the GT4. Again, minute difference. Now, I did think the same when I drove Adam's 2.5 litre GTS. I felt like I was sitting quite high, but he had the electric seats, so I was thinking maybe it was a seat thing. Everything about this car since I've been driving it, the differences between the two, I'm really not sure if I'm dreaming it or if it's minute. So one thing that's actually great about this GTS that I kind of wish the GT4 had, but then I can understand why it doesn't, is the sports chrono. It actually is here for a reason. Now, if you spec a sports chrono on the GT4, all it gives you is the clock on the dash. It doesn't do anything else. But on the other non-GT products, it gives you this little Manatino sports chrono dial on the steering wheel. And this allows me to switch between individual, normal, sport and sport plus. And what this does is, it makes the car feel like a Jekyll and Hyde. It gives it different personalities. When I flick it into normal, it honestly feels like a normal Cayman. It's easy to live with, it's like a normal daily, it's quiet, etc, etc. But the minute I flick it into Sport and Sport Plus, it's profiles that are all configured for me already and ready to go. For example, it obviously tightens up the throttle, it opens up the valves, it can raise the wing if I want to, I can set that in the individual setting, and it will tighten up the suspension. So all I have to do with a flick of a button is I can completely change the characteristic of the car. And it's really nice to live with, because on the motorway I can go into normal and I can relax, feel like a normal Cayman, and with the flick of a switch I turn it into a GT4. It's 99% GT4 just by flicking that switch. And when I get into my GT4, it's basically always on, and the only way that I can tone that car down is by me basically dropping the gears and manually having to change all the configurations, but the engine mapping, everything is still exactly the same. And so with this being a GTS and having the options to change the profiles, change the characteristics of that car, this car, it makes it more enjoyable to drive. I have a normal Cayman, and then when I want to, I have a GT4. I honestly feel like I'm repeating myself, but like I've said, it's a fantastic car. It is the car that pretty much 99% people only need. It's a road car that you can live with day to day, but at the flick of a switch, drop a few gears, it turns into a GT4. It's 99% a GT4. Now the issue is the price of it, and that's something that we haven't really discussed so far. You can pick up one of these brand new. That's the pros. You can spec one of these brand new from the dealership. You can spec it to exactly however you want. You can then help build a relationship with Porsche, which will then obviously allow you to potentially get more and more special cars in the future. But to spec one of these up brand new, you're looking at around about 85 grand. Now, if you look at 85 grand on the Auto Trader used market, you could probably pick up a low spec GT4. I mean, heck, even my GT4 was around 85 grand. In fact, you could also get a 981 GT4 for 70 grand, even 65 grand. So that really starts to then play with the ideas. Do you pick up one of these brand new, or do you go for a used GT4 instead? Just got back in the GT4. It 100% sits lower. Like, I fell into it. I was like, steering wheel's really high. Definitely is lower. And so to summarize my fantastic weekend with the 4-litre Cayman GTS, it's a fantastic car. It's 99% of that, but it can also do the road stuff absolutely brilliantly. I've also found that the gearbox is almost more relaxing, which means that I find I'm actually often cruising in 4th gear, whereas in the GT4 I quickly upshift to 6th gear to tone the engine down and make it quieter. This is so much more relaxed and chilled that I'm not as stressed driving around in this car 24/7. Hold up there, I also want to say one more thing. If you're never going to go on track, you don't actually need all the benefits of the aero on the GT4. You're never going to be able to fully experience the aero on the road in the GT4, and that's why I think both cars felt relatively the same whilst driving on the road. But I'm younger, I'm happy, am I really though, being annoyed by this car and dailying a GT4, because every time I drive it, I'm reminded that I'm in something special. It's hardcore, it's stiff, it's loud, and it reminds me that I'm driving something special and I'm spending my money wisely. I don't know, it depends on you entirely. If you want something that you can daily, every single day, and be happy and then be able to do all the fun stuff, this is the car to have. But maybe as a weekend car, or if you're happy to just have your back broken and your ears bleeding, I'm exaggerating a little bit, the GT4 is the one. That's the one that makes you feel special. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Please do comment. Let me know what you think. Would you spend the extra money and get the GT4? Or from a daily point of view, if you're spending money every month, maybe you want to get a car that you use more often. Let me know what you think. Again, a big shout out and thank you to Porsche GB for lending me my first press car of 2023. This time last year, I was filming my 25,000 M2 competition review. It's mad what happens in a year. Subscribe, like it, you know, if this video does well, hopefully Porsche GB might lend me more cars to showcase and review for you guys on the channel. Maybe I'll get a 992 GT3 to film one day. Who knows, maybe 2024, who knows. So guys, I'm signing out. Thank you very much for watching. The usual, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you later in the next video. This 992 GT3 was the one at the We Drive event. How do I know that? Well, it's shark blue. It's the same spec, but it's wearing the famous 911 GB license plate. It's a lovely car. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to film with this one day on the channel? We've also got a Frozen Berry GT4. This is lovely. I really like it. It really stands out. You don't see Frozen Berry, the colour, very often at all because, you know, it's basically pink. People don't really spec it, but it is bucket car with a manual. I've seen it on people's channels a few times. Lovely car, very bold, silver wheels, keeping it classic. We've also got another GTS 4 litre. This is a Boxster, silver with a red roof. Very classic gentleman spec. I do really like Carmine Red, by the way. It's kind of like a more gentleman Guards Red, a bit more of like a classy colour. I really like it, very classy. And there's also a matching GTS spec over here in silver with red roof. So I finished off the whole weekend with an average MPG of 26.4. That's not bad, isn't it? That's basically what I get in the GT4, and we did around about 355 miles. Thank you, mate. Oh, my brake pedal's definitely firmer. There's like more to push against. The gear stick is so notchy. It's definitely more of a workout. You're like clicking it in. But like I said, I'm reminded, I feel like I'm in something special, just instantly. Everything is just a bit more tight, a bit more focused and refined. Feels like I need to oil the engine, like everything feels really like stiff. It's almost like, I mean, I haven't driven it for 2 days, but it feels like all the cylinders are already stiff and compact. It's so strange. I knew that jumping back into my GT4, I would notice the biggest difference.